see everybody here scrolling in. Of course, per usual, we're going to do some quick housekeeping before I hand over the virtual mic to Courtney. So real quick, our agenda housekeeping, we're going to jump right into quick pitch introductions, the presentation from the 6 communities listed: Greater Appelgate, Heart of Ellsworth, Reimagine Mendota, Seminole Arts Council, Town of Van Buren, and the Village of Marcellus, DTA. And if time allows, closing program. So as always, I'd like to share with you that this recording, we are recording this session, and this will be available on our YouTube page next week. And we'll be sharing that link with you in the monthly, the post gathering summary email. This is just a quick FYI, because I've noticed that a couple organizations that are part of this program have had some newcomers join their design challenge, which is wonderful to see. If you do have any new members, please send them to me by, looks like July 26th. So a Friday by the end of the day, so I can add them to the directory, which everybody has access to. Even after the program's done, you can still check up and reach out to fellow members. The last thing I wanted to share before we pivot to this virtual gathering topic is that we will be having a public-facing webinar in October 2024, with the focus being on the local design workshop showcase. So pretty much like this, but a little different, gearing towards the workshop community. So, you know, don't feel sad, workshop communities. You will have your moment to shine virtually, but just later in the year. And the date is to be announced once the CIRD team gets together and we smooth out those items. We will be sharing those ASAP via email. And with that, Courtney.
Thank you so much. And hi, everybody. Really great to see you. A little sad. This is our last session. We're going to move pretty quickly through these introductions because we want to make sure we have as much time as possible for our 6 communities to present. In general, the way the quick pitch works, we will have roughly 5-minute presentations from folks from the 6 communities, one at a time, of course. And then roughly 10 minutes to, and each community has been asked to provide a prompt, question or something they would like some input on related to their design challenge. And then, so our 3 primary panelists, who I'll introduce in just a second, will respond to that. Our staff team folks can also have an opportunity to respond. And then if there is time, we would welcome comments from the community members as well, from the other cohort team members. But we would also really love it if you guys can use the chat to share resources that you think of or ideas that you think of as the presenters are talking. We will gather those and share those with the presenters after the fact. So it's a great way to share other ideas, even if you don't get a chance to speak. And then we're hoping to save about 5 minutes at the end to save, to have a few minutes just to share insights or other thoughts about the program. Next slide, please. So we are super excited about our presenters today, or sorry, we're excited about our presenters. We're also excited about our panelists today. We have 3 folks from outside who've joined us. Sara Loe, who is an architect and who works at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Rural Development Innovation Center. She's based in the Midwest region and has an interesting design background kind of from all over the place, but is a fellow Fed at the moment. Also want to introduce Scott Schmidt. He's an adjunct lecturer in design at Georgetown University. Scott wears a lot of different hats, and our connection to him actually initially came through, I don't even know exactly how he and Stephen got connected, but some of his students at Georgetown and also at Drexel University in Philadelphia have been working with a few of our communities, cohort communities. So that's been really exciting. And then finally, Maria Sykes, who's the Executive Director of Epicenter. She's a designer, a rural advocate, and a community coach. And she is based in Green River, Utah, tiny little place in a beautiful part of the world, and comes to this conversation with some really great design experience, as well as working with small communities in other contexts as well. So, and then of course, Terry Charleston, who is oversees the technical assistance part of the Housing Assistance Council, and Ben Stone, who's the Director of Design and Creative Placemaking. at the National Endowment for the Arts, and they will also participate in the panel if we have enough time for everybody to chime in. So encourage the presenters to keep your presentations pretty tight so we have time for lots of feedback. I think we're ready for the next slide. All right, so we have a map here. This is the current history of the CIRD program in dots all across the country, going back to 1991. And our next slide. And this is the communities that are presenting today. So we really do have a far east to far west coast range here. That's super exciting. And really just want to express appreciation to the communities that are presenting today, because it's a thing to do. It's a task and can be a little intimidating. So hopefully this will be a really great productive time for them to get some input on what they've been working on for the past year. Next slide. All right, we'll start with Greater Appelgate, and Hillary's going to drive our slides. So presenters, if you can just prompt when you want the next slide, Hillary will drive us forward.
Okay, that's me. I always get to go first because we start with an A. Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Fehrman. I'm a co-executive director at a Greater Appelgate. And Hillary, you can advance the slides if you'd like. So the Applegate Valley is located in southern Oregon. We have a 500 square mile rural area spanning 2 counties, well, technically 3 counties and 2 states. We don't deal much with the California part of our valley, but definitely are spread across a wide geographic region. And our valley is made up of 5 recognized but unincorporated communities. We have no formal government structure. We're limited to uneven services from multiple jurisdictions. We have no consistent access to funds or revenue sources to address any of our issues on our own. Yet, as with many rural places, we do have a lot of not only assets, but also challenges. We have gaps. We also have opportunities. And so a Greater Applegate is a nonprofit organization that has stepped into this void. And we're a community building and community-led group that is looking to identify our challenges and opportunities and prioritize those. And some of those, the pieces that have risen to the top are local economic vitality and catalytic placemaking projects. Next slide, please. One of the ways that we are attempting to do this is to focus on the revitalization of these village hubs. So on that last map, you could see the 5 circles. Those are our 5 village hubs. Historically, that has been the center of commerce. So we've got Rouge, Applegate, Williams, Murphy, and Wilderville up there in the top corner. These have been the centers of commerce and also community life in the Applegate throughout time. They're all about 7 or 8 miles apart, which I think back in the day was about a stagecoach ride. So we're looking at how we can once again make sure that they are able to serve our rural life here. And so our idea is that each of these, while all different, would be connected in that they would be local business centers, having access to local foods, products, and services, that we would have some connectivity with walking, biking, and potentially even public transportation, which we have none of at the moment in the Applegate Valley. We're looking to improve some critical infrastructure or even provide. We have no actual community center. Other things that have come up is co-working space, laundromats. There's a whole list of infrastructure or needs, and also potentially a resilience hub. We're in a wildfire prone area. Access to social services would be part of the piece that these village hubs would provide too, a place for mobile clinics to park or privacy booths at the library, these sorts of things. We have a little bit of a burgeoning visitor destination here. And so wayfinding for visitors and information would be critically important. There are many regions in many parts of the Applegate that don't have a cell service. So having both analog and digital ways to communicate is pretty important for us. Clearly, we'd like to integrate the arts in our art community. and do all of this in a way that reflects our history and rural culture, and also provides opportunities for recreation and activities, because we live in a beautiful mountainous and river area. So we're trying to support both the entrepreneurial, economic, employment opportunities, have community gathering places, and also, provide some of the critical infrastructure that we need, along with doing it artfully. We have a lot of assets. We have relationships. We have a business network, a food and farm network. We have an artist working group. We have a ton of people with skills and entrepreneurial spirit, knowledge, and creativity. We have great local businesses, a pride in place, and a beautiful natural surroundings. And we know that this big effort will also require partnerships with our county governments. CIRD is our local economic development district, and then also state offices, federal participation, probably professional consulting support, and significant community leadership. Next slide, please. So our current project is looking at what we've been doing over the last year is focusing on each village hub in their own way, but I'm going to talk about the Applegate Village Hub, which is the center of our valley, and what we're thinking about here sort of as proof of concept for this larger village hub strategy. The Applegate Evening Market, which is in its 4th year, has moved into downtown Applegate, as we jokingly call it. And it's a weekly event featuring farmers, makers, music, and food. And the artist community has a significant presence here. This is also in the area where our Applegate History Museum is trying to come back to life, so showcasing that local history and culture. We have 2 new owners of critical businesses in this small little village hub, and so there's some new energy there. There's also a local swimming hole and a wayside park that was once a beloved public spot for swimming, and then kind of it got bought and it's been private, and now it's kind of opening back up. So there's some potential there. We also have a branch of the library and the fire department in close proximity to the downtown center. And this September, we're planning a week in Jackson County, which is sort of a stay local week that features all sorts of events and activities, and hopefully is a fundraiser as well. And we're hoping to do a big Wednesday night pop-up market, just kind of a expansion of the market that's happening on a weekly basis, but to show the potential and what a vibrant downtown might be able to look like. Next slide, please.
And Megan, this is Stephen. Just real quickly, I just don't have time. I want to be cognizant so you have time for discussion as well.
Okay. So next steps is that we are putting together a proposal for the Our Town grant that's due next month, that focuses on this Applegate Village Hub. So it would include a community engagement and design process for what this hub could look like, with more connectivity and more engagement and entrepreneurial potential. And then hopefully the selection of a public art piece to represent our community center and the spirit of our rural area. And then we're in discussion with Oregon Main Street about their rural regional hub program. And then, like I said, this big pop event that's happening in September, that's kind of going to be hopefully a launch for this big idea and what this could look like. Next slide. So basically, our biggest challenges are sort of leveraging the governmental partners that want to be involved. We have a good relationship with Jackson County and have been talking to the commissioners about this, but they have kind of a hands-off approach to economic development, even though it's our understanding that they are supposed to be doing that in their unincorporated areas. And our local economic development agency is a nonprofit, so doesn't count as quasi-governmental, and just trying to find the right levers to push as an unincorporated area. We also are in a place where all of the land that we're going to be dealing with is privately owned, and we don't have access to public space besides BLM land or Forest Service land up in the hillsides, and there's no there's no publicly owned land in these village hubs as far as we can tell. And just trying to find basically the long-term funding for design and process so that we can actually get to the point of developing infrastructure and needed connectivity, but knowing that the process of partnership development and design and implementation take a long time, and how to get our organization through that multi-year process to the point of being able to build something. So thank you for your time.
So yeah, panelists, if you'd like to join in, I'm going to try, I'm adding spotlight, so you'll see your image pop up shortly. But yes, feel free just to have a casual conversation with the presenter, and yeah, unmute yourself and share.
Am I in here? Megan, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Really awesome stuff you guys are doing here. I'll cut all the small talk because I know we're short on time, but really neat. I just wanted to take the second question here. This is a little offbeat, but I think could be helpful. I don't know if you've ever been exposed to human-centered design or the concept of it. When I teach classes and we do work like this, we talk about very early on in the class, human-centered design and moral hazard. The idea of, in a practical sense, if you're trying to apply something to multiple communities, as you are, the idea that is, and I'm not suggesting that this is the path you're taking, but the discussion of, is one size fits all good for everybody? That would be something that would come up. Obviously not, but there are going to be some similarities between how you work between communities. But I really think if you're trying to get people on board with an overall conceptualization of how these different communities come together, something like human-centered design could be very beneficial and helpful to you. And I suggest that you just do some basic Google searches and look into that. And really what it means is, because you talked about surveys here, you talked about interviews, when you're working with the actual community who's going to be impacted by design X, human-centered design is working with those people in order to design the very things that are going to impact their lives. So looking at more of a methodology about how to go about that would be helpful. And based on the framework that you have here, it looks like you're already heading in that direction, but you could get a lot more ideas from the literature that I think could help you, especially when you're having these conversations about creating incentive for people to get involved.
Thanks, Scott. I've heard about it, but I haven't looked into it, but certainly will. Thank you.
Great presentation, Megan. This is Sara. I'm going to just quickly tap on your third question, because that's an area my group is focused on. And I just wanted to comment that currently there's more funding right now for technical assistance and the implementation than there has been previously. So I'm not sure quite where you are in the process, but looking for those opportunities now might be worthwhile. With all government funding, I'm not sure if that funding will stick around. But there is more attention to the fact that some communities, especially rural communities, need more assistance, perhaps, in building that capacity to implement some of these process in order to get to the goals. So good question, and I think it's something that's getting some outside attention.
Thank you. We do have a federal readiness preparedness fund that's coming into Oregon, and we have put our hat in the ring for that. So we're waiting to find out, and it basically is some sort of technical assistance and funding to be able to be matched for federal grants. So
Okay.
we're hopeful about that right now, and that was a need that was seen by some of the funders here, and they've put together a fund specifically for that. So there is some action on it, and hopefully it'll in time.
That's one of the efforts I cheerlead. So I'm happy to see it getting some attention. Just to put my planner hat on for a minute and to follow up on Scott's comment, one thing I might just suggest that, and it could be that you led your presentation with this, but I was looking for it when you started talking about Applegate, which is how are each of the communities contributing to the overall valley, right? So in my vocabulary, it would be, what's the master plan idea, the big goal for all the communities, and then sort of identifying how each of the communities are contributing to that. I think so that you're continuing to build that goal and bringing us back to that. I think just as someone looking at funding, but also so you're reinforcing that original idea. Thank you. Great presentation.
Could you talk just like for a second about like the motivating private landowners? I'm not sure how to exactly to answer that, but I think I have an idea for you. Like what's going on? Like, what is there like resistance there? Like, what is it?
No, it's just an angle that we haven't gotten into the exact design in each of these village hubs yet. That's the process that we're trying to fund right now. And a lot of our business owners are very community minded. And I mean, for instance, the Applegate Evening Market is being hosted at the Applegate River Lodge and Restaurant. So they don't open on Wednesday night. They host this community market. They run the bar, but they are not open so that other food trucks and other food preparers can come in and sell food. So there's community mindedness here, but basically all that we have to work with is private land because we have no public space in these village hubs. We did a survey with U of O to look at the rural commercial available and the land plots, and there's no public space. So just kind of, haven't had that problem yet, but just anticipating like the only thing we have to rely on in opening up community spaces or installing public art pieces is through private land and business owners.
Sure. I mean, I guess I would challenge you to think about like identifying those pieces that are public, whether it's sidewalks, alleyways, whatever it might be that you could easily activate, rather than going uphill if possible. And if that's not possible because you're shaking your head, I think engaging those private land and business owners into the planning process and learning from them and not just making an ask eventually, but getting them engaged in the planning is hopefully going to motivate them to participate.
Thanks, everybody. Great. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Hillary.
It's all good. Yeah, great. Thank you, everyone. So next will be the Heart of Ellsworth.
Hi there. My name is Cara Romano. I'm the Executive Director of Heart of Ellsworth. We're an affiliate community of the Main Downtown Center and National Main Street organization. I have both of our project partners here today that are also working on this project with us.
And Cara,
can you hear us?
Could you outdoor voice possibly?
Sorry about that.
Thanks. Oh, no worries. Thank you.
I don't know how much of it you heard, but my name is Cara Romano. I'm the Executive Director of Heart of Ellsworth, and we are a Main Street Maine and Main Street America affiliate community. And we have here both of our project partners who are working on this project with us in downtown Ellsworth, which is near Acadia National Park. And I'm going to let both of them introduce themselves as well.
I'm Sara Lesko. I'm the Ellsworth Public Library Director. We are a department of the City of Ellsworth.
And I'm Austin Schuver. I'm with Frenchman Bay Conservancy, and we're Ellsworth's local land trust.
Please advance the slide. So we have a few questions at the front and then a couple at the end. And so ours is sort of a little similar to the last presentation, and it's about approaching private landowners and partnering with our city government and how we can engage some of these stakeholders in meaningful ways. So we're hoping people can think about that throughout the process. Also, how to convince city staff and elected officials to consider bonding this project that you all are going to hear about in a moment. And then sort of also, we're going to be talking about a few of the resources that we're missing and sort of where we are in securing those resources. Next slide, please. Just to give you folks all a little bit of some geographic footing, if you look in the bottom, we have the state of Maine. We are located on the coast in Hancock County, which is, some of you may know Acadia National Park. We're located about 16 miles from Acadia National Park. And then if you look at the large image there is the Future Trails site, which goes along the Union River, which runs through our downtown. Next slide, please. And is this the third one? Yeah, third one, fourth one. We're on the fourth one now. So,
yeah. So just to provide some context here, this aerial photograph shows our potential project site, which is right along the Union River. And the Union River is in this moment where we have a 116-year-old dam just out of this photo that is tied up in legal action right now. So its future is completely uncertain. And there's been a 30+ year community goal to really activate a connection to the Union River, which has a lot of historical and cultural significance for the city of Ellsworth. But there's a complete lack of signage or information about why the river is so important to the way that Ellsworth grew up in this place. And the community continues to show interest almost every time there's a public workshop or participation session about bringing art and access to the river, bringing more outdoor activities to the river, and being able to celebrate that history and the culture of the river. Next slide, please.
Our project addresses the underutilization of the Union River flowing behind downtown Ellsworth. Our cultural history is really centered on the Union River, yet our downtown has its back turned to the river. There is a renovated Riverwalk trail, which you're seeing the trailhead in this picture, but there are no visual cues about where it is or how to enjoy it other than this very tiny hidden sign behind the library. Our community has expressed interest in a sculpture art trail to highlight the river access and encourage outdoor recreation, and also highlight the river's cultural importance to Ellsworth. Next.
So I just wanted to sort of give a little bit more of a context of our project partners. We have one group that's not here today, but Sara is going to talk now just a little bit about what sort of support the Ellsworth Public Library will be doing for this project. And then Austin from Frenchman Bay Conservancy will talk as well.
So as you just saw in that picture, the library's parking lot is part of the trailhead area. The trail runs through the library property. So it is used quite often for community programs. We're holding several things out there this summer. So we'll be in charge of any kind of support for community programming, hosting artists, anything nature-based. Yeah.
At Frenchman Bay Conservancy, we have environmental knowledge and the legal property easement expertise in working with trail easements and also with maintaining trails. And so we're supporting relationships with the property owners because the trail is going across private land, while at the same time sharing public-facing information, inviting people out on the trails.
And then we do have the group of artists, as you can see in this picture. We do have the artists selected who will be doing the sculptures that will be along the trail. They were not able to be here today. So the Schoodic International Sculpture Symposium, there's 5 of them. They're all stone sculptors, all who work from local granite that is mined here along the coast of Maine. And they're all professional artists that have a vision and a connection to the location, as well as their work, but most of them are internationally exhibited. And so they all have a deep understanding of place and really process and have the portfolio to really support being able to handle a project of this size. Next.
So our anticipated next steps, we need an engineering study of the parking lot. It also has very large retaining walls that run behind the library that are crumbling. So we're continuing raising funds, and we need to start our community engagement efforts. So one of our big next step is turning to the public, getting their input with artist talks and workshops at the library. Some other things that we're thinking about doing: a student apprenticeship program. We do public hikes already, so continuing those, showing people where the continued trail would be, volunteer cleanup days, and possibly a temporary sculpture at the library, just to get everyone excited about the project.
Next.
So wrapping back to the questions that we mentioned at the beginning, there's a couple things to consider here. One is thinking about this project in the scope of a larger vision. And we hear from the public that they're interested in the entire Union River. How do we wrap this project into appeasing the vision for an even broader river trail? And then the second question would be, how do we continue to establish ourselves as partners in the city and ensure that we collaborate with private and public partners and everybody has a seat at the table?
I feel like you guys could benefit from some data in terms of like what's the economic impact of a trail like this, as well as what is the potential impact on like the happiness and health of the residents. So I think that'd be, I don't know if you already have that information, but that would be super helpful to present. Like if I were on a city council, I would definitely want that information. You look very excited. I'll let you go.
I just want to say that we're working on that right now.
Okay, cool.
It's about an $80,000 project, and we're working on it with these project partners as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think you guys have started touching on this sort of activation through temporary installations. I might also encourage you to do things that are less tangible, which maybe it's audio tours, maybe it's zines. It's something that artists will come up with the most incredible stuff to get people on trails and get them invested, whether it's about history or whatever it might be, right? Or something totally fiction and amazing. And then one thing that came to mind, partly because of the presentation before us, is I've seen a lot of really incredible markets that sit on trails that are next to rivers. And so I think getting those, and that could engage your business owners that you were mentioning and getting them invested. But yeah, this is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, just to go off the back of that, there will probably be a theme of me throughout this entire session of talking about human-centered design. But, leveraging those types of methodologies to get input from the town, a big part, and it was just touched upon here, is that you're trying to get the public input, support for the project, but also for fundraising. So knowing exactly what the people want. And I'll give a good example is, you have, I'm assuming that the artists are from the community there. But, I think one aspect is maybe figuring out what type of artwork would be most representative of the community so that you would get a larger buy-in from people. And I know that, artists want to make their thing, but maybe you give them some parameters about the type of art that they're making so that it's very representative of the community. And as far as getting, sort of an economic infrastructure involved, you could look at gamifying the type of trail through QR codes. You could build economic incentive through that, the people's journey, if they get a coupon or something like that for local areas, that could help stimulate business. I think also the geographic location that you have to Acadia, leveraging signage. Maybe this is outside of the scope a little bit, but I'm assuming the traffic that you have, in particular in the summer, people going to that area, if you can make this trail into something that's bigger than, and maybe this is something that the town doesn't want, I don't know, but making it bigger than, or in addition to the people who live in the town, you could also make it for people who are going through the town. So making it into some sort of system or gamified thing that tells the story of the town that other people can then be part of and experience, I think would be really helpful.
And I'm just going to jump on what Scott was just saying, because one of the first things that came to my mind was you've shown us this piece of the Riverwalk, but my first question is, what does it connect to? And you've told us you're 16 miles from Acadia National Park, and I'm assuming there's going to be some river activities going on along the Union River, but I don't know how this trail actually connects to or supports those activities. And I think the more you can activate that trail with these connections and with these other activities, so you must already have activities going. Fishing. I grew up in upstate New York, same exact situation, built in the early 1800s. So the back was turned to the big river because it was industry. Built the Riverwalk, put in places for fishing and whatnot. So people are standing there activating that riverfront. It's made a huge difference. And also the buildings that were along the waterway, again, had their backs to them, like you said, but their uses have changed. So now they become a tavern opening out and they want that river view. So in those ways, you can engage some of the private landowners because they want to see that riverside improved. I was also struck by one of your first questions, which was, how do you get city council to support the bond? In my experience, bonds are voted on by the population. So you're actually wanting to get the community buy-in for the project, which would support both what Maria and Scott were saying. Pull people in along the way, get buy-in, and you should have the support when it comes to bonding. Thanks. Great presentation, great project. Whoops, sorry, Cara.
I just wanted to comment on the bonding pieces, is that we actually, at the city council meeting last week, it was the council has, I mean, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the country. I can just speak to Ellsworth, but here the council has to decide that they want to push something out to bond rather than to just make a decision. We just witnessed this at city council last week on another issue. And so they could make a decision to push it to bond, but they have to be pushed to sort of say, we want to push it out to bond. Otherwise, they're just going to make a decision that they don't want to fund it because they don't want it to go to bond. I don't know how to explain that any better, but.
No, I understand. But if it's a project that is shown to have community and business support, and council realizes that, I'm not sure why they wouldn't support it going to bond.
Do you have
putting it
on how to? Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
And just to let everybody know that, yeah, because of our tight turnaround in time, we are going to be sharing Sarah, Maria, Terry, Scott, and Ben's contact information in the post gathering summary email I'll send out next week. So if you have additional questions, like, you can reach out to them after this for sure. All right, Reimagine Mendota, you are up.
All right, thank you. So we are located in Mendota, Illinois. And we are just west of Chicago. And I'm sorry, I was late to our meeting. Do I need to control these videos?
Oh, no, just tell me next.
Oh, next. Okay. Sorry, I was at a conference and I got kicked out of my room. So
we got you. No worries. All right.
Okay. So yes, the next video, please, or the next slide. Thanks. So, and our questions are pretty much, we're working on some design around some projects that we now have clarification of what we are working towards. So just trying to understand, we're kind of working from a blank slate. So where to go from there and how to use our data that we are collecting. And then ultimately I keep getting asked who gets to make the final decision. So how to how to determine those people would be very helpful. So those are our questions. Next slide. So again, we are in the city of Mendota in Illinois. We are just west of Chicago, and we're a small town of 7,000 people. And when we wrote for this grant, we had suffered two major fires. So there was fire number 1 on the left and fire number 2 on the right. So we basically have 4 main streets in our town. And the first one happened on our main street, and the second one happened on Illinois Avenue. So 2 of our main streets, 2 of the 4, are basically burned down to ashes. And all of those buildings have been demolished except for one of those on the second fire. So we are basically, we keep saying that we are rising from the ashes. That's kind of our theme. But the really great thing is we have, again, this clean slate that we can design our town the way that we want, which is kind of an exciting piece. But like I said, when we wrote for the grant, we weren't really sure. We were just like, we just need lots of help to figure out where we're going from all of this. So the next slide. So since we wrote from this grant, we were also given an opportunity to be part of a grant called the Community Heart and Soul Grant. And that really helped guide us of understanding the importance of getting people input. And so that gave us some funding. And for 6 months, we basically were out in every community meeting. We hosted meetings, we were at tables, we had focus groups, and we were able to survey about 25% of our population. And that was anywhere from our seniors to our young people. We had 300 third and fourth grade students color pictures to let us know what they liked about Mendota. We've now had 8th graders survey the whole middle school, so we have all that data. And so from there, we were able to ask what people liked about Mendota and then what they wanted for Mendota. So the heart you see there, that was all the things that came out of what people liked about Mendota, the small town feel, our lakes. And then you can see listed here is our top 5 wants. And so really what came from that is that a community space was the number one thing, is that we really needed to have a pavilion, a band shelter, whatever that is. Obviously more businesses, buildings put back up, that would be helpful. We've talked about a sports complex. We're also working on better sidewalks and bike paths because it's very hard to get around our city. And even interestingly enough, more code enforcement and economic development, because most of our fires have happened, not that they've determined the fires, but we pretty much know it was all electrical, and it's because we're not enforcing our codes and we have old buildings. So that's why they were asking for code enforcement. Next slide. So from that, one of another thing that has happened is we just received a grant from Brownfield to help with the remediation of, as you can see, this building that's highlighted in red. There used to be, part of this was a dry cleaner, and then it became an auto part store. So there is contamination underneath the ground. And then that green part that's in front of that building, that's where the first fires happened. So that the city owns most of that. We own the building on the corner there, and then we own the place that's in the red. So all of that will be city owned. And so that is what has been determined as the place to do this community square or pavilion. And it's a perfect place because it's also right kitty corner from our train station. We are an Amtrak stop. So we can, and Amtrak to Chicago is literally like a 40-minute passage. So it's a great opportunity for us to eventually look at our tourism as well. And in addition to that, through our community heart and soul work, we were able to get a $10,000 grant or a $10,000 donation from a company. We went back to them, and now they have also given us a $100,000 for dollar match to use towards this community pavilion. And we were able to host a press conference to promote both the grant and the donations. And we have already started to get donations for the pavilion. Next slide. So where we're at is that a lot of people have said pavilion, band shelter, whatever, from needing just a little to something. We don't know what that means. As we all know, everybody's vision of what that is very different from everybody else's vision. So knowing what we know best is to get everyone's input to help guide us, so that way the community feels a part of it. We also think it's important because for us to tear down that building, remediate, and actually get the new plans, which the grant also provides us $100,000 for planning. All of that is going to take at least a year to 2 years to do. So now is the opportunity for us to really take the time to hear from our residents, to hear what they want for that space. And then besides that, there's been some investors who are interested in doing a sports complex. We're in the process of writing a grant for updating our pool because it needs a lot of work. We also have some grant opportunities for some parks. And then, as I mentioned, everyone said we need more businesses. So all of this, we need a lot more data for each of these grants and these opportunities. So what we thought about doing is hosting this vision open house. So we put it out there, but now I'm struggling with how to get all this input to make sure it's meaningful for us, and realizing that's a lot for people to kind of work through their minds of how they want for each of these pieces. And I know through a lot of these webinars, they've been very helpful, but I feel like it was like because we knew exactly what we're like either building or the space. So the only thing we have secured is the space. But we have no idea, like we could raise 100,000 or we could raise 1 million. It just depends on what we need, and we don't know what that is. And so as we're doing some of these big fundraisers, everybody keeps asking us, like, what's the design or how much do we need? And everything is a big wide open space book. So I'm trying to learn how to really structure this in a way that how do we know if one person says they want a splash pad at the pool, that's just as important as the one person who says they want a diving board, and how to keep that straight so that we know which things we should add and which things are just nice mentions. And then so that's where we're at in terms of designing this kind of open house for people to give their feedback. And so the next slide are my questions. So really trying to understand how to successfully host this community design visioning session. We have 6 days scheduled, all different times. We get to actually have it at one of the new buildings that our museum just purchased. So they also are asking for help of what they should do with their building. So people are invited to come and spend 1 minute, 5 minutes, or however long they want to give us their feedback, give us their drawings, pictures, ideas. But then again, I'm struggling with, once we collect that data, how do we establish that into a design and budget? And then who ultimately gets to decide which design concept we go with? Those are my questions.
All right. So I just put in the chat a treasure chest of ideas for you as you go through this visioning session. It's just one of many books, but it's a book that's for design research methodology, and it's to inquire with people how to design what it is that they want. So you're at this inflection point where you have a general idea about what you need to build, or it's actually pretty specific, but I think what you need is a bit of hierarchy, right? So I think the book, I would recommend just going through that book. It's very cheap. There's 125 different methods there of ways of pulling ideas out of people that are more qualitative than quantitative, that aren't exactly measurable. So I think the first one you should probably start with is user personas. You should figure out exactly who you're designing for. You already know, I mean, it's a small town, so you're already generally going to have a good awareness of that. But I think if you go through the steps of creating user personas, you could have something that you can show to other people in the town. This is who we're designing for. These are the 3 general types of people that are going to be using the space, et cetera. you've already conducted a survey, which is pretty amazing. You got 25% on that survey. So hats off to you. That's super impressive. But it also demonstrates that you have a well that you can go back to continue to refine and ask questions, which is a huge part of that's the design process. So I would urge you to go back with more refined questions, build out more of a hierarchy. Like when you were talking about the different spaces, which space is most important? Which one's least important, right? I think right now you're operating in this space of we need to do something here, right? But if you can create a hierarchy out of it, and you can say, this is where we're going to start, this is what we're going to get to next. These are the type of people we're designing for. I think it can create a better picture for people, especially when you bring people together for this design visioning session, right? Because what you want to do is create something very specific that people can walk into, so that you're giving them some parameters so that you can then get that research back and make better decisions with it. And I think finally, and I'm sure you're working on this to some degree, but creating a visualization of the space, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So if you have some sort of a visualization that you can work with, I don't know if you're going through any other organizations to be able to do that. I think it would be very, very helpful to your cause, and a good place to start when you're going through the visioning session. But this session sounds awesome. I'm really excited for you. Really cool project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Great presentation. I just wanted to build off what Scott was just saying about visualization. And I would take that one step further. Again, I'm going to go back to my predilection for master planning. And you threw out some words identifying what people wanted or what they like, included biking and walking. And I think historic, the nature or buildings were on that list. But so my next ask would have been, show me where those are. Show me where the historic core is located, because I think you're going to find not everyone agrees on what's considered historic. Not everyone agrees where the biking, walking trails, paths are, or maybe where they should be. And once you start getting those lines down, it starts defining some of this picture, and it might help define which elements could be the catalyst and give you the hierarchy that Scott is asking for. So it might be this piece makes the most sense to start with because it's going to cause it's going to pull these things together. So I'm all for pictures, visualization. But great project. I mean, I'm sorry to hear about the fires. Those look tragic, but good luck with the opportunity.
Thanks.
All right, Seminole, you are up.
Hello. See if my video is working. Are we good? Okay. My name's Jacqui. I am with the Seminole Arts Council in Seminole, Oklahoma. And just to preface this presentation, the slides that I sent over to Hillary are what we use to pitch this to any potential collaborators or donors. So I wanted to share the same presentation with you. My specific question for the panelists that is not included on the presentation is to just please, at the end, identify any green, yellow, or red flags. So next slide. Again, my name is Jacqui. I'm with the Seminole Arts Council in Seminole, Oklahoma. We are a grassroots nonprofit organization full of volunteers who are working together to implement art into our community and improve the quality of life for everyone here. We have started a placemaking project that we are calling the Downtown 321. It is a empty lot located at 321 Main Street, which we thought was really convenient. The next slide. What I'm going to kind of talk about today is who we are, why we chose a pocket park, a little bit more about the project, the timeline, who our partners are, our audience, some of the risks, and how we're budgeting our funding. Next slide. Okay, so this is us. And if you look closely, you'll actually see Hillary in one of these pictures. We are the Seminole Arts Council. We like to think of ourselves as innovators, dreamers, artists, and definitely teammates. We're all volunteers from the community who are committed to improving arts access for all who live here, while simultaneously improving the quality of life for residents and preserving our historic downtown district. Next slide. So why did we choose a pocket park? We began learning about asset-based community development and placemaking through the grant that we got through the Housing Assistance Council and the USDA. After several community meetings, and which we had over 30 people come to, it was determined that a pocket park would benefit not only restoration efforts of our historic downtown district, but also enhance social cohesion and community unity for local residents. The chart on the slide shows our pocket park in the center. The 4 pink squares around it kind of identify the parts of placemaking that we thought were more applicable to our community, which were sociability, comfort and image, activities and uses, and accessibility. Next slide. So the project itself, it's an innovative strategy which seeks to transform an empty lot located at 321 Main Street in Seminole, Oklahoma's historic downtown district into a lively, multi-purpose community hub that overflows with numerous elements of art and culture. Some of the features of the park that we hope to include are a stage for multidisciplinary art such as music, theater, and more, seating, tables, vendor stalls, outdoor games for all ages, an outdoor movie screen, community gardens, adult fitness equipment, musical and interactive fencing, shade, lights, and sound. Next slide. This is the general hope of what our project timeline will look like for 2025. We've already started some of the project recently. We've actually got the dirt work started this week. It should be finished this week. We've started getting bids to have some shades put up in the park, and we've had lots of people donate toward just getting shade and spools put out there for people to utilize the space. I know that December 2025 is probably not a great time of year in Oklahoma to be having an outdoor grand opening, but I really anticipate this getting delayed because nothing ever really goes on time. But some of the parts of the timeline include the continuation of the design and planning phase, because this is a continually mutating project. It doesn't seem to stay the same. Permitting and approval processes with the city, and we'll move on to the construction phase, the landscaping and finishing touches, final inspection adjustments, and then the completion and grand opening. Next slide. This just kind of is a little slide about our project partners. Of course, HAC is there. The Seminole Chamber of Commerce, they are partnered with us and the Seminole Downtown District, and we do a lot for the city as far as events goes. The City of Seminole, which is an umbrella, includes the City Council, the Seminole Urban Renewal Authority, and the Seminole Economic Development Council. They have all partnered with us on this project. And the lot itself is owned by the Seminole Urban Renewal Authority, and they have leased it to us for 10 years at $1 a year. Next slide. Okay, so when we were talking about this project and developing the plan, and part of why we chose a pocket park, we had to kind of determine who our audience was. And when we did that, we looked at 3 main components, which is economics, the diversity, and the location. And if you look at the information, I don't know, it's probably kind of hard to see, but we live in a poor community that has a high tribal population, overall just about 7,000 people. We're a rural city, lots of oil and gas history, and we have 10 small rural school districts just in our county. We also have 2 major state highways that come through our town, but none of them go through our downtown district. Next slide. In the planning phases of what we've been doing, we've tried to mediate any risks that we can see coming up. And a lot of the risks, the big main 4, was gaining approval and support, securing funding, the antisocial behavior that we see in our community, and ongoing maintenance and upkeep costs. The gaining approval and support is I feel like it's going to be a ebb and flow kind of situation for a long time. Like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Securing funding as a nonprofit, that is a constant thing that we're always working on for different projects. And but the antisocial behavior is something that we had to really research how to tackle that. And we think that as long as we have regular programming that takes place at the park, that's going to help bring people there and help prevent them from being so antisocial. And the maintenance and costs, being a nonprofit, we don't have a lot of money. So we're really looking forward to developing some sort of contract with the city, since they do own the property, that they'll help us with the maintenance of it moving forward. Next slide. Okay, so this is our project budget, and it looks really just plain, but we've really divided it into 3 categories: the infrastructure, the stage and the stalls, and the interactive features. We don't know what our overall budget is because we're constantly asking for money or doing what we can with what we have. But the infrastructure, it's an umbrella for a lot of things like the dirt work, electrical, plumbing. Interactive features is an umbrella for like our art exhibits, our musical fence, the fitness equipment. The stage and stalls we put in its own specific little category because we feel like those 2 components are what's going to make our space more event friendly. And we feel like those 2 components are going to take up most of the budget. Next slide. As we move forward, our vision remains steadfast to create a dynamic space that celebrates the unique identity of Seminole while providing residents and visitors with a welcoming oasis in the heart of our city. From lush greenery to engaging art, installations, and interactive amenities, every aspect of the park will be carefully curated to foster connections, creativity, and well-being. We have gotten some grant money from our local Walmarts. We got about $6,000, which is what we're utilizing to have the shades put up there. And we're now participating in the Citizens Institute of Rural Design. Hello, everybody. And these accomplishments serve as a testament to our team's dedication and our community's unwavering support. Looking ahead, we're eager to continue this momentum with plans to construct the stage and lights, family games, upgrade the seating, and more. And with the ongoing support and collaboration with our project collaborators and the community, we're confident that this pocket park will not only exceed expectations, but also serve as a catalyst for positive change in our historic downtown district for years to come. That's it.
Jacqi, have you ever activated that site with like any sort of temporary installations to like prove any of these concepts?
We have had a couple things go on there. We had a little cookout. We got the spools donated, and we had like a little paint party. We had some flower pots too, and everything that we do out there, we're just inviting the community to come do it with us, and we make it fun. So it's been kind of working out. We're a small town, and I kind of have to keep reminding myself that 50 people aren't going to show up. 1 or 2 people is plenty, and that's definitely an improvement from how it used to be.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is that you're talking about like a pretty big project with it's going to be challenging to fund, and I wonder if there's parts and pieces that could be temporary, or go from temporary to being permanent if they become really popular, and it might just be a way to kind of start getting attention that you need, because the images that you showed at the beginning are great, but like if you have a temporary screen of some sort, and then being able to take like photos of people like watching a movie there and how it actually works might be super helpful. Another thing, does Oklahoma have like mineral lease funds that are available to nonprofits? In Utah, we have the CIB. That might be something to look into. And I think that might be it for me. Yeah, I would look into that though.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jacqi. I think this is a really great project for putting to use a vacant lot on that main street. And one thing, so a couple thoughts. When you were talking about the audience, you gave us, it struck me that you were talking about the demographics of the town.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself, maybe along the lines of Maria, wondering who would actually be using this space. So is it just going to be an event space, or is it going to be activated by people on that street who are coming to by takeout or bringing something or walking through. So I was wondering if there was some information that you might provide. If it is just an event space, that's one thing, and the community is it. But if it's also being activated by daily activities, I think identifying how those daily activities would activate the space would be interesting to understand.
Yeah, we have actually our vision for the space is to be a little bit of all of that for the people on the street to utilize it who are just walking by and need a place to sit. People who have an organization who have an event and they need somewhere to have the event, we'd love that to be a space for them as well. Or even if you're a family who needs a space to have a little birthday party, we'd love for it to be something utilized for that also. Anything and everything in between.
Then I was missing who that daily audience might be. Who's activating that on a regular basis? And then on the project budget side, I understand it can be hard to nail those numbers down, but I think if you're asking for funding, it would be really helpful to get some estimates.
Okay.
I think you'll find them more approachable if they understand an overall picture of what you're asking for.
Okay.
But good effort.
Notes. Thank you.
Also, when I looked you up on site or online, there's a lot of murals in Seminole. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're painting the walls. I was thinking one thing this place might need because it's a vacant space is how do you really give it wayfinding? Love the fact there's a tree in front of it because it'll be a green space in front of all the storefront. But what if you extended that mural across the street, sort of as a crosswalk to start tying in and also just announcing this vacant lot? So anyway, great project. Have fun with it.
Courtney, do you have an update you wanted to share?
Sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were going to do it or me. We're recognizing with 2 more communities to present, we're going to be a little tight on time, but we do want to give everybody, at least the 15 minutes that we've been aiming for. So we're going to go a little long today. I hope most of you can stay with us just a few extra minutes. We're hoping to be done by about 3:40 if folks can stick around. So thank you for your patience. And take it away, Luke.
Okay, thank you. I'm Luke Dyer. I am the manager for the town of Van Buren, a small community in northern Maine on the Canadian border. Van Buren was once a vibrant community, which in the 1950s had the nickname Christmas Town, due to all the unique small shops that adorned our main street. However, due to decades of economic decline, our town fell into a deep low, with the municipality owning over 50% of our downtown buildings in 2022. Next slide, please. I applied to CIRD along with all of you to try to get some focus on our revitalization. I probably gave poor Omar a headache in the times that he's talked to me about this. Our challenge was multifold. How do we recreate our downtown being conscious of our rich Acadian and French Canadian culture? How do we respect our community's incredible history? How do we create resilience through climate-friendly projects? How do we blend all our various modes of transportation into our plan? And lastly, how do we incorporate the arts and implement creative placemaking into our rebirth? And I'll be honest with you, in March of 2023, if you'd asked me about creative placemaking, I'd have told you it was adding an extra fork and knife at the dining room table. I had absolutely no clue. My trip to Frederick, Maryland with CIRD completely changed that. Next slide, please. We started the engagement process of our community early on in the process. We knew that we wanted our revitalization efforts to be led by our community and not a manager and 5 town councilors. Applying the concepts championed by the Community Heart and Soul program and getting a $10,000 seed grant to hire a coach to lead us forward was the obvious first step. We later, through a connection with CIRD, be introduced to Scott Schmidt, who is a panelist here today. his graduate class at Drexel University's Westfall College of Media, Arts, and Design. Through a series of individual and group interviews and later a survey, helped us focus on the things that are historically important to our citizens and ultimately the creation of a very unique art project that we're working on now. Through another initiative, Maine Department of Transportation's Village Partnership Initiative, we were able to identify several green spaces and open spaces in our town that were ripe for reinvention. Next slide, please. We secured funding through the Maine Resiliency Partnership to complete a $77,000 community garden and greenhouse project, reclaiming a 3-acre neighborhood right in our downtown that was lost in a flood in 2008. The project will develop a 30 by 80 greenhouse and a minimum of 10 community garden boxes to encourage food sustainability, creative placemaking, and community investment. The trees that you see around our community once we start the Village Partnership Initiative will all be grown by community members in our own community garden. I have also been able to acquire $53,000 in funding to create a unique silhouette art project in an underpass that leads to our beautiful boat landing. We received a grant from the Maine Community Foundation as well as some municipal funding and some in-kind donations to get this project started. It is a large part of our goal in Van Buren to turn us into an arts campus. Next slide. We have plans to build a 1.7-mile pedestrian cycle trail system funded through Maine Department of Transportation's Village Partnership Initiative. This project will be approximately a $500,000 project of a multi-million-dollar plan. We have 2 years, and we are 2 years currently into this 5-year plan, which includes a complete revitalization of our downtown streetscapes and sidewalks. Through the Drexel grad class, 6 graduate students created a roadmap to a unique art exhibit, which is going to be located on the Van Buren Historic Pathway. The next step is to continue working with Drexel students to design and fabricate 10 art pieces representing historical places and activities from early Van Buren that were identified during the planning phase with Scott's class. The ultimate cost of this project will be approximately $50,000, but that does not include the in-kind work that was done for us by Drexel, and we're forever thankful for that. Additionally, we've been granted $280,000 in funding from CDBG and municipal funding to demolish the former Yacht Club building, which is one of the largest buildings on our main street. This huge blighted building will be replaced with a new building, which is pictured there, that will house a bakery coffee shop business that will brew their own beans. In a video that I submitted for my application to CIRD, I talk about this dream, and we're actually on the way to that project, and we are funded and we're ready to rock and roll with it. Next slide, please. Our planned next steps are these projects. First, we want to create a tiered amphitheater called Star Stage, like Sky Stage for my Frederick, Maryland friends that we all toured while in Frederick, Maryland. It will host all our music on Main Street events. It's located right central in our downtown. This space has been a vacant hole in our Main Street for nearly 10 years. The project will cost approximately $250,000. Committee members are already reaching out to musicians to develop a music schedule for the summer of 2025. So even if we don't build it, we're going to have music in the location just to get people into that mood. Secondly, we have developed a shovel-ready project to convert part of our former municipal building into a community connectivity hub to promote greater access to the internet and educational opportunities that don't currently exist in our community. The project includes 3 community conference rooms and 2 high-tech telehealth conference spaces. And lastly, we're in the design process of turning our former town office. This is a new town office. We've been in here about 18 months, and we had scheduled to demo the old building. We've decided to revitalize that building. It was once a movie theater built in 1940 into a wide open community market that will serve as a small business incubator for 10 entrepreneurs looking for cost-effective solutions to creating a small business. It will allow potential businesses and owners an opportunity to test the waters to see if their business idea is viable. If there's interest in their product or service, etc., it will provide a space and guidance for a very inexpensive startup cost. And next slide. And really my questions are, and I just wanted to say Ben sent out a message today that some of the questions I have here, Ben sent out a link to some potential funding resources for me to read later. I saw it on LinkedIn and I was reading it at lunch and I was pretty excited about it. So some of these questions may be answered through it, something that Ben Stone had posted on LinkedIn. So, but if anybody else has any other funding ideas, and just for the sake of time, you can post them in the chat. I don't want to take any time away from the other village that needs time to present.
Luke, I'm going to make a pitch for RD, Rural Development. Have you worked with them?
USDA Rural Development?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have a very good contact with USDA Rural Development. And we actually applied for a connectivity hub grant through the Maine Connectivity Authority. And to say I'm salty would be an understatement. We did not get that grant, but I know we should have got it. We deserved it. And I'm still putting pressure. We're still, regardless of whether we get that grant or not, we're still building it. We're going to make this happen.
Well, good. And do check back just because different funding initiatives come through all the time. So you never know what they're going to be promoting funding for.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah.
Luke, it's always challenging to answer funding questions, mostly because I don't know like the landscape of Maine. And so what I would do is just start talking to anyone who's done anything in your area that's similar and looking at how they were funded would be the first place to start. Connected with USD Rural Development. I know there's like the value added program, different things like that, but suddenly it'll start clicking and making those connections. I wish I had more information about Maine that I could be like, oh, you need to talk to this person and this person, but I think that's where I would begin. Like, look, if there's a local association of governments, revisiting USDA, and yeah, similar projects in your region, or maybe even not in your region, you know, like just looking at how they got those things funded is the place to start.
Thank you.
Good job, Luke. I was just wondering where are you going to start? Which one? What part of this?
Oh, well, you know, I always have 100 things going and I sleep about 2 hours a night. So we're going to do everything we can while we can. Mainly the community connectivity hub. That's a project that I think can be done without a lot of hands-on from me as the manager. And again, I posted in the chat, but I'm sorry for Ellsworth that does not have the support of their municipality team. It's disgraceful. I'm frustrated for them. So.
Luke, I jumped right to your questions, but I failed to say you've done an amazing job of lining these projects up and getting them rolling. So I can see why you're focused on funding, but it really looks incredible. And best of luck with getting them all to fruition.
Thank you. I wish I could take credit for having done it all myself, but we have a strong revitalization team that is a volunteer organization, and they really help drive the force along here. So thank you.
Okay. So next up is the village of Marcellus. Seth, did you want to say anything before I play the video?
Nope. I don't think you need to spotlight me because I'm already in the video. So anyway, we can just go ahead and roll the video.
Okay. Make sure that you guys give me a thumbs up or thumbs down if you can hear the audio.
Hi there, my name is Seth Carlson. I'm with the Village of Marcellus, the Marcellus Downtown Development Authority. I'm very excited to be here today.
Did it pause on everybody?
Yes, it paused.
For the Citizens Institute on Rural Design cohort, where we are presenting our quick pitch for Marcellus. Go ahead and hit play here. But Marcellus, Michigan is located in Cass County. You see here in the video image our streetscape beautification project that's been happening in tandem with our water project in town. So very excited to bring that block that downtown district, some new streetscape, some lamp posts, some benches, and really beautify our downtown area. Marcellus is a part of the Redevelopment Ready Communities. That's the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's program. So we were just recently awarded the RRC Essential Award status. So very excited to be redevelopment ready. About Marcellus, this comes from our school's website. So Marcellus Community Schools is a really wonderful school system. They have this blurb here, which pretty much sums everything up. 36 lakes within 6 miles. You're going to be hearing that quite a bit. We've got a wonderful ski resort just south of town, and then tons of outdoor activity. So we've got those 36 lakes, but we also have really beautiful farmland, tons of hiking, great parks, so tons of outdoor activity that attracts people and brings people in. Some of our questions relate to the surrounding area and how we can engage that tourism and local support to activate our commercial corridor. And then how do we leverage the economic impact of all of this outdoor activity to really amplify our downtown district, our downtown area. So you see those images. We're flying over our main street right now. We are heading east and west in this video. This is our main street, also known as 216 or Marcellus Highway. I'll get to a map image here later, but to show you just in terms of placement where Marcellus is. But this is heading out toward 131 over our downtown area. You also see that Marcellus is really proud of its history and its heritage, right? So we've got some beautiful downtown buildings founded in 1870. We want to preserve those historic buildings as much as we can. So we are working with our township and our village to make sure that we can preserve, restore, and bring more business into these historic buildings. This image is from Land Use USA Urban Strategies. Land Use was contracted to conduct a retail market analysis for the village of Marcellus. You can see that in the image, the map image there, a 10, a 20, and a 30-minute drive time to get into Marcellus. You also see the surrounding communities. Those highway systems that I mentioned earlier, you've got US 131, which runs north and south. The 216 turnoff, there's no longer a stoplight here, so there's really some opportunity, we believe, here at this intersection for people to know that Marcellus exists, is here. Also M40, which runs from 94, runs it really from Holland, Michigan, all the way down, but M40, 94 turnoff here in Pawpaw, and then runs south into Marcellus, all the way down toward Mottville. So again, this map shows a 10, a 20, and a 30-minute drive time to get into Marcellus. Also from Land Use USA's urban strategies is our population. So again, when I mentioned that we are rural, we are rural. That's a 1,300 population of 1,300. By 2030, we're expected to be at 1,600, and then you see our per capita income over time here for the village of Marcellus. So just some information for you as you consider this question, how can you activate the commercial corridor by encouraging tourism and local support. And again, beyond some of the obvious, like here's a sign, signage that we put up, maybe there's something in the history of some of these programs and initiatives that has worked. So are there any success stories that we can look to? Also, is there any funding out there that we know of that Marcellus might qualify for that we could consider and pursue? So those are some things to also consider in this question. And then as I skip forward here, our second question, as I mentioned, was how do we amplify the economic impact of these 36 lakes within 6 miles? I want to hit play because you'll see some of those lakes. And then you can also see in the distance, we've got our water tower, the Marcellus water tower. So within the 36, within those 6 miles, you can see some of these lakes. You see the beautiful townhomes and lake homes that people have around them, and then also our gorgeous farmland we are so proud of. Along the right-hand side of your screen, you see all of those 36 lakes that are listed out. So again, the question here is how do we amplify that economic impact of those 36 lakes within 6 miles for this campaign? And then I will end with just a map here of Marcellus and just say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this cohort and to participate in this quick pitch presentation for July 2024. Thank you so much.
Great.
Seth, just to confirm, your question is about amplifying being within 6 miles, having the 36 lakes within 6 miles?
Yeah, the economic impact of those 36 lakes within the 6 miles and trying to attract and bring in not just businesses, but then people to come to those businesses as well.
So a bit of a data question. Are those summer cabin lakes?
A lot of seasonal homes. Yeah, they're. I would say the majority. I think that's probably some data that we could collect is who's full time and who's seasonal. That'd be a good one for us to go down.
And then, right. So there's the family seasonal, and then there's the whole Airbnb seasonal economy.
Yeah.
Those would actually be good numbers for your community to have.
Awesome. Thank you.
And you can get Airbnb, is it, they do pull those numbers. I'm forgetting the name of the site that does it right now. Something DNA.
Awesome. I'll do some searching.
Okay.
Thank you.
I feel like there's there's room for like a large like marketing project here almost where, you know, it's again, you know, we've talked about this a few times, but it comes back to the visualization of the town's role in those lakes. You know, how much, I guess, how much work have you put into that too? Because it seems like the project is already visually minded. Where are you on that? I'm sure you've thought that through at this point.
Yeah, so I think a part of the initial application when Sara was working on this and putting this in is that identity that Marcellus has just really held on to, which is that 36 lakes within 6 miles. Mm-hmm. However, the lake crowds really are not coming into Marcellus. Mm-hmm. And Marcellus is just kind of viewed as the pass through. You know, M40, you got to drive through Marcellus to get to wherever you're going. But there's no real incentive. There's no stoplight. So there's not anything stopping traffic. So holding on to that 36 lakes within 6 miles and really kind of embracing again the place-based assets, I think is where we are leaning, and to try to find some of those examples. A part of our RC status, our redevelopment ready communities through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, is to really phase this out into a marketing plan. And so we are in that phase 1, phase 2 of research and development for a marketing plan, so that we can become certified RRC.
I wonder if there's and I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall here, but just workshopping ideas. But it almost seems like the idea of providing information as the hub precedes the economic stimulation that you would see downtown, like that would. So one of the first things that I think of is I grew up outside of Buffalo, New York, so we have Niagara Falls there. And, Niagara Falls is where everybody got married in the 50s, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't there. But there's still all of these like informational tchotchke store things that they're not very vibrant at this point because the money isn't there that's going up to Niagara Falls as there was. But I was driving through there the other day, and there was one. It had to have been 50 miles from Niagara Falls where this store was, and it was like a Niagara Falls Visitor Center. Stop here for your candy bars and maps on the way up there. But I just think something like that, if you could take advantage of this location and somehow provide products that provides information to the area. And I don't think that printed ephemera is dead. I think that not everything has to be entirely digital. There is some kind of a draw there that is almost unique because everyone just focuses on digital. So, maybe some more research or digging into how you could leverage that, I think would be helpful. And then, the next logical thing, it came up twice here, is some sort of an art installation that tells about a story about your town that people can interact with, that provides economic incentive for people to partake in it, and it's gamified, et cetera, those sorts of things. But I almost feel like the first square one is, always getting funding, but focusing on this visual sort of map keeper, that's even a word, of the area.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned that in the Ellsworth, like the wayfinding information for center or for visitors. I think that I took that down as a note. That's really great. Thank you.
I agree with Scott in that the notion of 36 lakes within 6 miles puts the emphasis on the lakes. And I don't know what it's within 6 miles of. And that's what I need to find if you're going to tell me I need to go to Marcellus. So my family has a cabin up on the North Shore of Minnesota, and we're about 30 miles from Grand Marais, which is one of many towns on the Big Lake Superior, but it was known as an artist colony. Right. So it had an activity that attracted people to it. And it's still known as that. That was back in the 50s and 40s. But it has propagated that identity, and it still uses it. The other thing it does is events. So it has a couple seasonal events. It has boat races. So people come to town. That we're going to our cabin, but we know that the first weekend of August is crazy days, and there's going to be things going on, and we know. So you start planning your holidays around what's going on in the community. That's the hub for activity. The other thing that I thought of when I was looking at the list of projects, and I haven't mentioned yet because it hasn't come up, but this could apply to Ellsworth and it could apply to Van Buren, is recreation economy, which is another element that's getting funding now, right? EPA does funding, we do funding for that. So I would think about what activities go on those 36 lakes. Are there trails that could be developed? Make sure they run through Marcellus, right? So you're a spoken hub type of, even if there's a stoplight, what other multimodal can bring you to? Because people will travel just to do those activities. So good dilemma. I think you're in a good spot. I think you'll hit on the right solution. Thank you.
So
Thank you, Sarah.
I've been working in tourism and rural development for 15 years. And one thing I would encourage you to do is maybe you're thinking this way. I won't accuse you of it, but to reverse the way that you're thinking. And instead of how can I get more people to come to our community, focus on what can I do to make this a community where people want to live and stay. And so when you're focused on the people who live there, that's the place you want to visit. You know, like the coolest places we want to visit, you're like, oh man, I really want to live there. And so whether that's community center, better infrastructure, events that are focused on the people who live there year round, like then the visitors will come, right? I'm sure you're probably thinking that way, but just like doubling down on that will it'll result in something that's not, you know, based on flighty tourist ideas of the time. It'll result in like a stronger community in general.
I love that, Maria. Yeah, and this is the fight to save the town. That right there. Yeah, love it. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. And thanks to everybody who's able to stick with us. I know we lost a couple of folks to 3:30 meetings, 3:30 Eastern meetings. This is Courtney. I just want to just really super quick say what an amazing cohort this has been and how great it has been to meet all of you and see the way you all have connected with each other. We certainly hope you all will stay in touch, and we will certainly stay in touch and share opportunities as they come up. But just really want to applaud all of you for the stick-to-itiveness and the way you all have continued to engage. You don't need to spotlight me. I want everybody spotlighted. But yeah, just would love to open it up for just a couple minutes for folks to share thoughts or ideas or interests, concerns, but also just really want to express gratitude and appreciation for the time that you all have put into this program, because it's made it really rich for everybody.
Yeah, if I can, Courtney, I just want to speak for the town of Van Buren and say how much this program changed my town. That I learned so much here, and it has driven me over the last year to make my town a better place. And to get messages from Steve and other people that work at CIRD just reaching out saying, where you at, how you doing? It's made the world a difference here. I mean, sometimes we forget that there's a million other communities like ours stuck in the same situation. And to meet people in this program and to know that we weren't alone, that's what drives me forward every day here, just knowing I'm not alone. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes, I want to say the same. I'm Demelia from Hugo, Oklahoma, Project Gain. Same thing with Luke, Sir. You guys felt like a family. Even Luke, Robin, just everybody that went to Frederick. Especially I'm 27 and I came back home kind of right after college and I hopped into this field. And so it being part of Sir really gave me a new mind frame for myself and also how to handle the community and the challenges and knowing that there's hope. So I'm super thankful for you guys. And we got more design challenges for our bigger goals. So I will be reaching out to all of you guys. I'm so thankful for you guys. Thank you.
I just want to say that this entire year-long project has just really kept the cohort has kept our project on track. And I know that our community wouldn't be where we are today with our project had we not had these monthly meetings. Big, huge shout out to Amanda. She's amazing. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much. And please do keep in touch. We've got the email here, cird@ruralhome.org. And we have been already brainstorming ways to connect back with you all and keep in touch about how things are going. So we aren't quite sure what that will look like yet, but would expect to hear from us in different ways as well in the coming months and years, because we're here and we've been doing this for a long time. Seth, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, just there are a ton of resources in the chat. So will those also be available to us afterward? Okay, awesome.
Yep, we're saving the chat and we'll send those out to, particularly to the presenters, but really, you know, I think they're good resources for everybody. So we'll share those around.
I was scrambling, trying to click on as many links as I could.
No, we got you. I have a document already for y'all.
Awesome. Sara?
I just wanted to say that I really believe in the power of place. And that's one of the reasons I became an architect, because I thought I had to be an architect in order to shape and design places. But after working in architecture and traveling and whatnot, I think the places that resonate most with me are the ones that are shaped by communities. Over time and based on their way of life and their cultural value and the natural environment. So I am so inspired to see all of you getting involved with the shape of your communities and bringing them together. So thank you for participating. This was really, really fun for me to see, and I applaud all your efforts.
And thanks also to our panelists today. You all were spot on. So really great input for everybody, I think, even if they weren't presenting. All right, well, we can sit here and absorb more compliments for a while, but we're already over time. So we really are grateful for you all. Take care, everybody, and stay cool and keep in touch.